Hey there, you made it. Another night sitting around living rooms and conference rooms or joining through Zoom. And I have to tell you, I love that because if the people in your group are anything like the people in my group, you probably had 1,000 reasons not to come today. Maybe it was work or school or kids or sports or obligations, or maybe you're tired or just had a really bad day and you just wanted to stay home. That's part of why I have the group at my own house, so I can't skip. But a few weeks ago, a friend in my group had just a brutal day at work, decided not to come. We all got her on the phone and started yelling at her and saying, just, you have to come. Like, we insist that you come. You have to be there. And really, we want you to be here. A few minutes later, she came walking through my front door and the whole room just erupted in cheers for her because she showed up. And it ended up being one of my favorite nights of small groups that I've ever been a part of, because really, that's life. Sometimes you don't want to go. Sometimes you don't want to show up at the thing. Sometimes you don't want to be around people. And when life happens, you got to have a group of people who will cheer for you when you walk through the door. And so I love groups. And when I read through the book of Acts specifically, like we've been doing the last few weeks together, the idea of community and togetherness and kind of wanting God's best for each other fills the pages. You find tremendous community and support and encouragement. And I think they did a lot of what you're doing right now, gathering together, sitting in groups, talking about how Jesus is moving and working and really just changing them and changing the world around them. And here's the thing about the book of Acts. God was moving, and it was obvious to everyone. Some people opposed that movement, some doubted it, but it was really hard to deny that it was happening. And every time God moved in some giant, miraculous way, some kind of way that only He could be responsible for, there was always a common denominator. In almost every chapter in the book of Acts, you'll find reference to someone or some group of people praying. In fact, the disciples alone are mentioned being in prayer over 30 times just in the book of Acts. Something happens when God's people get together and pray, and He begins to move. And here's the thing, what happened in the book of Acts, what made the church so unstoppable, it wasn't based on the talents or the skills or the education or the popularity or the success of the disciples or anyone involved in the church. It was solely a result of God and them praying before He moved. That's how things started happening. That's how He started moving. And we have access to the exact same thing that made the disciples heroes of the faith and the church completely unstoppable. See, when they prayed, it wasn't a shopping list of needs. It wasn't a gossip session disguised as a prayer request. It wasn't just this casual list of things. It wasn't for their third cousin's, uncle's, mama's broken hip. Their prayers were big. Their prayers were brave. They didn't have special language or all the right churchy words. They weren't in a special place, and they definitely weren't the most qualified people to be praying the prayers. They were simple, specific prayers for God to do what only He could do. And in some of the most dangerous, pressure-filled situations, they were asking the God of the universe to move. And when they asked, He did. They asked for boldness. They asked for protection. And they asked for the thing that to me is the most miraculous, and that is for hearts to be open to Jesus. So when it comes to you, let me ask you, what are you praying for? Where in your life do you maybe need to be more bold? Not weird like we've talked about, but bold. The kind of fearless confidence that allows you to step into conversations you might usually shy away from. Maybe at work, maybe in your neighborhood, maybe with friends or family. The fearless confidence to tell someone in your life just simply what Jesus has done for you. Or maybe you're in a situation where you just feel surrounded and overwhelmed and under pressure, and you need some type of protection. Maybe it's physical, maybe it's mental, maybe it's emotional, maybe it's in your health or someone around you who is just really struggling. Or maybe you need God to open your heart, to allow you to show grace or forgiveness in a situation, or to see the world through a different set of eyes, or maybe to receive forgiveness and grace for yourself. But maybe today you need to ask for God to really just open and change your heart and do what only He can do. To me, what made the church in Acts so incredibly unstoppable is that they were praying prayers that changed the whole world, not just their world. If you were in church on Sunday, I gave you a small journal and I asked you to pray for something bold, something that if God were to answer it, the only explanation is that the God of the universe moved. Maybe today in the safety of your group, you might share that thing that you're praying for, or where you need boldness or protection, or someone or your heart to be open, or someone else's heart to be open. I know the book of Acts showed us that God moves when His people pray. My prayer for your group today is that as you gather and as you pray and as you work through these scriptures together, that the God of the universe might just choose to move and do something that only he could be responsible for because his people prayed for it.